What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of JK Sports. It's your boy Kevin Humphreys and Jack Feldman. Jack, it's been a minute. We had Thanksgiving come up and a whole lot of other stuff happen in between the last time that we podcast. How are you doing?
Doing good. Saw the family for Thanksgiving. Played some ball. Played some football, basketball. So it was a lot of fun to get a little break from work and have some fun.
Dude, that's awesome. Uh, any games, any moments stand out from you over the Thanksgiving break?
With football, I feel like the biggest thing was the Cowboys Chief game
Yeah,
that we were talking about before the break, and I think that lived up to the hype. And I think the
yeah,
Cowboys beating the Chiefs is something that a lot of people will look back on and say this was the turning point for both these teams.
yeah.
So that was an exciting one to watch.
For sure, for sure. I 100% agree. That Chiefs game was great. Personal one to me was Arizona State. Territorial Cup actually meant something this year. It's been a long time since both teams were good, and it was a fun football game to watch, and the Wildcats came out on top. And now ranked number 18th in the country, and not quite the resume boosting win that we wanted for BYU, but we'll have a lot more on that later. Jack,
Yes,
let's
sir.
get to the take tracker. We'll just start. I'll just start. Lane went to LSU. Last time we were on this podcast, I said this is all just one big Trojan horse. It wasn't a Trojan horse. Lane went to LSU, and he burned every single bridge he could on the way out the door. He tried to leave everything he could in a dumpster fire. Coaches leave places, and then there's the way the Lane Kiffin leaves places, and there's he can never go quietly, right? He never goes quietly. There's always some big circus around it, and LSU, that's your circus now. Good luck.
Yeah, that was surprising. I think it was a little surprising the way he left. He really burnt every single bridge he had, which was just crazy because you don't see that often anymore. It's a lot of nice, hey, I'm out of here. Don't mind me, but I'm gonna go elsewhere. But Lane Kiffin, he said, screw you guys, and anyone that wants to come play with me, come on over, and you don't have to finish the season. And that was just absolutely crazy to see the way that he left Ole Miss, because I felt like he put Ole Miss on the map and Ole Miss put him on the map. And
Yeah,
so I thought it was a mutual just respect and love for each other, but obviously Lane felt else.
yeah. He definitely made it known that Ole Miss was just a stepping stool for Lane Kiffin. Not it. I guess it really didn't mean that much to him. His dog, Juice Kiffin, not even his real dog. Everything at Ole Miss was an illusion.
Mhm.
And Lane just keeps being Lane Kiffin. But I guess if you're Lane Kiffin, it's got you to LSU, one of the top 4 or 5 highest paid guys in the sport. So, that's not personally how I'd go about living my life, but kudos to him. He's successful, I guess. Jack, what is your take tracker? What take have you been tracking recently?
I feel like I haven't really had a crazy take lately, to be tracking, but it's just BYU has to play their way into the CFP.
Mm-hmm.
These guys, the committee's not gonna hand out any spots anymore, like they did to SMU last year, and so BYU, as we saw tonight, they have to beat Texas Tech to get in, and it's as simple as that.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that that's what it's come down to because I know everyone in Utah sat down this weekend. to watch football, and they were saying, "Come on, can just one of these teams fall to their rival? Can Alabama lose to Auburn? Can Ole Miss lose to Mississippi State? Can Oklahoma lose to LSU?" We were so close so many times to getting the loss that BYU needed, that we needed, Jack, and we couldn't get it. It's been 3 weeks that we've just been sitting at 11, and we just can't get anyone in front of us to lose, except for Texas A&M. But unfortunately, they were undefeated, and they needed BYU needed them to lose twice to pass them, but that's not going to happen anytime soon. So I think you're right, but I do have a conspiracy take, Jack, that I'll get to in a second, that just came to my mind. And um yeah, but yeah, it's gonna be a wild weekend, conference championship games, and no matter what happens on Sunday, there's gonna be many angry fan bases that they've been left out of the playoff.
Yep. It is nuts. And the thought that I keep having is, once we get to a 16-team playoff, we won't be having this conversation. But at the end of the day, we will always have this conversation. It
Yep.
doesn't matter how many teams are invited into any type of playoffs. And you see it with college basketball right now. I mean,
Yep.
there's 68 teams in that playoff, and people are still saying teams are snubbed
Yeah.
with 68 teams involved. And so
Yeah.
no matter how many teams are involved, you're going to have people saying, oh, if this team got in, then they would win it all. Sure. But at the end of the day, usually it's going to be the top 10 teams that end up playing for that title.
100%. And speaking of playoff expansion, that brings me to my early bird take, which is that and this isn't necessarily playoff expansion, but because of what's happening in the ACC, the fact that Miami's ranked number 11 in the country, Jack, and they're not playing in their conference championship game, it almost rules them out of making the college football playoff right now. And the only reason why is because they played the two teams the same as Duke in their conference. Anyone on earth can tell you that Miami's a better team, but because these conferences are so big and it comes down to all these tiebreakers that don't actually prove who the better team is and who isn't, that just about every team this offseason is going to change their tiebreakers in conference to having the 2 to 3. Obviously, like, if there's head-to-head, that should still matter more than this, but every team and every conference will be pushing for, if we're high in the college football playoff committee rankings, that is a tiebreaker. More so than record against common opponents, right? Especially if those common opponents is just two, like like Duke and Miami. So Miami, obviously, they should have just taken care of business and just won one of the two games that they lost against SMU and Louisville, but they didn't. But they still deserved a shot to be in the ACC championship game over Duke, and I expect every conference in the country to follow suit and make college football playoff rankings a big tiebreaker.
Right. And I mean, I feel like that's what it has to come down to, because we almost saw the same thing in the Big 12 with teams like Houston and Cincinnati in that tiebreaker.
Yeah.
And so I do expect there to be a lot of changes to who gets into the conference championships because of that. And then speaking of conference championships, I think this is my early bird.
Okay.
Takes
Love
the
it.
worm. I think we're seeing the college football championship playing this weekend.
Georgia, Alabama.
It's either going to be Georgia, Alabama, or it's going to be Ohio State, Indiana.
I think that's the one.
And so I don't want to call it, but I do think that we're gonna see an in conference championship come in about a
January.
month.
Yeah.
Come January, I think we're gonna see Bama, Bama, Alabama, or Ohio State, Indiana. And it seems like it's going to be Ohio State, Indiana, but we've seen crazier things. But I think we'll see an in-state or an in-conference championship.
I think no, I think that's a pretty safe bet. A lot of people are looking at Ohio State, Indiana as the Heisman off. Whoever wins that game wins the Heisman. Personally, I don't think either quarterback is going to play great because of these defenses. And so the Heisman Trophy is very much still up for grabs. And, probably goes to one of those two guys. But if I think there's, 3 or 4 guys on your team that are better than you, and I do think that with both Indiana and Ohio State, like, I'm sorry, I don't think you're deserving of a Heisman if you're not even, the best player on your own team. So it'll be interesting to see. Maybe Ty Simpson. I thought he was dead after losing to Oklahoma, but if he goes out and beats Georgia a second time, I really do think that he has a chance to go out and win it. It's definitely on the table, but that's a small take that I'll just put out there. Jack, let's move to our just kidding sports take and my conspiracy theory. All right. So if you look at the college football playoff rankings, you see Notre Dame at 9 at 10-2. You see BYU at 10 at 11-1, and you see Miami.
Wait, BYU's 11th.
Oh, sorry, Notre Dame's at 10. BYU's at 11, and then Miami is at 12. So Jack, here's what's gonna happen. BYU probably loses to Texas Tech. The spread's huge. I believe it opened at 11.5, and last I saw it was at 13.5.
Wow.
But I think BYU is going to make it a game. I think they keep it close. I think it's a 1-possession game in the fourth quarter. Texas Tech probably pulls ahead and pulls it out. But I think BYU keeps this one close. And so BYU showing that they're capable of hanging with Texas Tech could be enough to sneak them into the college football playoff, because here's why. When the committee sits down and says Notre Dame or Miami, who's better, that's all anyone's been able to talk about, right? Because Miami has a head-to-head, but everyone thinks everyone thinks that Notre Dame's better, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And you know what they're gonna say? Well, dadgummit, we're just going to put BYU in because we don't want to make the hard decision. To avoid the I think that the easy way out for the committee in that situation is just to put BYU in the playoff and leave out both Notre Dame and Miami. That's the easy way out, isn't it?
It would be.
And I don't know if that happens or not, but the easy way out on Saturday night, on Sunday morning, when the playoff committee is sitting down and drinking their chamomile and their coffee, everyone's gonna say, it would be super easy if we just put BYU in, left Notre Dame and Miami out, and then we don't have to, and then it just makes everyone's job easier. Guess what? You guys both had 2 losses, didn't play in a conference championship game. Your resumes weren't as good as BYU's. Neither of you have 2 wins as good as BYU. They each probably have 1 win as good as BYU's, but they don't have 2. And, I think even with a loss, there's still a chance, albeit very small. I do think there's a chance that BYU sneaks in over Notre Dame and Miami.
That would be electric. And I'm all for it, obviously, because I'm a BYU fan. And to take this just kidding take even further, yes. I hope that they put Miami and Notre Dame into a bowl game together.
Yes.
So then we don't need to have this conversation of who's better, because they played at the beginning of the season and at the end of the season.
If they really wanted to I mean, look, we saw teams play on like 3 days notice during COVID, right?
Right.
If you think you're out of the playoff, like Miami, like what's go play Vanderbilt, right?
Yeah.
Go play Texas. These teams are out, but they still want to prove that they deserve a shot in the playoff, right? You have nothing else to lose. You're already outside the playoff. You have no conference
Go
championship
beat them.
game. Can that's a play-in game right there. You're telling me if Miami goes and beats Notre Dame or sorry, if Miami goes and beats Texas or Vanderbilt, that and they beat them, that wouldn't be enough to put them in the playoff? And guess what? If you lose to one of those teams, you probably didn't deserve to be in the playoff anyway.
Exactly.
Now, instead, they're just going to posture all week, and Notre Dame's, going to give their arguments through the media. And, I think we'll see both coaches on just about every talk show in the country arguing why their team deserves to be in the playoff. Meanwhile, BYU's coach was in the one of the craziest coaching carousel um, stories that you've ever seen. So they have their own thing going on as well. Kalani Satake was extended today officially. And, it's been a crazy week for those three teams. And there's going to be a lot of posturing. There already has been a lot of posturing so far. And it's going to be a crazy, crazy week in the media and on the field.
Yes. And it's been absolute chaos, which brings me to my take. And that's who we should all be cheering for this weekend
Yeah.
to build the mass chaos for the playoff committee.
Yes.
So I got 5 games for you. Anyone that wants chaos in the playoff committee's eyes, this is who you're going to cheer for. So it's BYU against Texas Tech. You're going to be cheering for BYU so they can hop in. You're going to ask for Georgia over Bama, which knocks Bama out.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got Troy.
Or does it?
Or does it? That's another thing that they would have to discuss.
Yep.
And then you got Troy over JMU, James Madison.
Yep.
And then you got Duke over Virginia. And then you got Boise over UNLV. And so this would result in the SEC runner-up missing the playoffs because the committee would have to put in an 8-5 Duke, a 9-4 Boise, or a 9-4 Troy, along with Tulane.
Ooh.
Absolute chaos.
Oh.
And then the cutoff would be 9. And so that's what I mean, it's a long shot to have all this happen, obviously.
But the more the merrier.
But how amazing would that be? So we will be visiting this come Monday just to see how that take took.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I don't know if that's a take or if it's just, a bingo card that everyone's, rooting for, right?
Wishful thinking.
Personally, of those, I would love to see JMU in the playoff. Like,
So fun.
Like, I would rather them beat Troy. But outside of that, I would take every other scenario for sure. That is, I mean, it probably won't happen because everything's been super chalk this year, which has been really annoying. Or at least in the month of November, everything's been really chalky. I hope we get some chaos. I'd love to see it. It could work out in BYU's favor. It could work out in Notre Dame's favor. It could work out in Miami's favor. Or it could work completely opposite. It's going to be crazy. Jack, let's get to the college football 20 or top 25 rankings that came out tonight. We have Ohio State at 1, Indiana at 2, Georgia at 3, Texas Tech at 4, Oregon at 5, Ole Miss at 6, and after losing to Texas A&M falls to 7. Do you think dropping them 4 spots was the right move by the committee?
Yes, I think it was. I wouldn't have been mad if they dropped further as well.
Yeah.
Because they were supposed to beat Texas, and We saw BYU get punished 5 spots, losing to a team that was ranked right below them in Texas
Mhm.
Tech at the time, 6 and 7. And so BYU dropping 6-11 compared to A&M dropping 3-7 against the 16th best team in the nation. It was a
Yeah.
little questionable, but everything's been questionable these days.
Yeah, 100%. And then you have Oklahoma at 8, Alabama at 9, dropped a spot. And then you have Notre Dame at 10, also dropped a spot. BYU holds serve at 11, Miami's at 12. Texas jumps to 13, ahead of Vanderbilt, who they have the head-to-head over. Vanderbilt's at 14, Utah's at 15, USC's at 16, Virginia, the favorite to win the ACC, is at 17. Arizona shoots up from 25 to 18. Michigan falls to 19. They probably don't deserve to be in the rankings, in my opinion. Tulane at 20, favorite to win the American. Houston, Georgia Tech, Iowa, North Texas, and James Madison. Any big movers or question marks outside of 9 through 11 right now?
Yeah, I mean, outside of that top 12, honestly, the biggest standout to me is the love for the group of 5. I
Yeah.
mean, you got Tulane at 20, North Texas, and James Madison entering at 24 and 25. Um, Again, it just sets you up for 2 group of 5s getting in. If Duke can beat Virginia, then you're going to get either Tulane or North Texas, and then you're going to get James Madison if they can handle business as well. So I love it. I think the group of 5 is getting some recognition. Hopefully they can pay it off with some close games in the playoffs, but it's cool to see them, 3 of those teams in the top 25 to end the year.
Yeah, it's really awesome because most of these teams, well, not most, but quite a few of these teams are playing this weekend, and there's stakes in just about every single game that's being played. Obviously, Ohio State, Indiana, it's for the number 1 overall spot, right? How the loser does in that, I don't know. I think the loser probably doesn't drop past 3, personally. Um, and then you have Georgia, Alabama. If Alabama loses, should they be left out of the college football playoff with 3 losses, or is that punishing a team for going to a conference championship game? And it's a team that Bama has beaten as well.
That is a tough question, and I don't think they should be punished because they need to stick to what they've been saying. They didn't punish SMU last year, and so they shouldn't punish Bama for having to play an extra game.
Right.
It would be the same thing if Oklahoma was in it, if Texas A&M was in it. Um, the only scenario I can think of is if BYU beats Texas Tech and they have to jump in, as well as the chaos surrounding the ACC and the group of 5s.
Yeah.
But I think they drop Notre Dame out before they drop Alabama out,
I
bearing
think
they
so.
lose by 4 touchdowns.
Yeah, well, that's true. I mean, we haven't really seen a team get blown out in a conference championship game that's had a shot at it. So if they were, to get blown out, I think it's definitely something the committee might take in mind. Obviously, Bama has not been playing their best brand of football. It feels like they've kind of been skating by, so maybe that plays into it a little bit. Every one of these situations is just so unique that it's really hard to, one, guess how the committee does it, and 2, like, to just assess using, everyone talks about eye test, and then there's metrics, and then there's resume. And what circumstance does each one of those factors weigh in every single team on this list? Because if you look at Ole Miss is at 6. Now, obviously, because of the coaching situation and all the off the field drama, that is a team that feels like man, they're the sixth best team in the country. Like, if you get the 11 spot, aren't you pretty happy to to be getting Ole Miss, right? Like if
Definitely.
you're BYU and you make it in the playoff somehow, or if you're Notre Dame and you make it in the playoff at 11 and you get to play Ole Miss, are you kidding me? That could not work out better for one of these teams that's scratching and clawing to get in. Same with Texas A&M. You know, my brother and I were talking earlier before the Texas game, and we said if you look at Texas A&M's schedule, they haven't played a single top 8 team in the SEC. They didn't play Bama, they didn't play Georgia, they didn't play Oklahoma, they didn't play Ole Miss, they didn't play, they didn't play anyone in the top 25 in the SEC this season, and we said, are these skill position players for Texas A&M just going to be able to run away from Texas's players like they've done everyone else this season? And they really didn't. They looked like a pretty mediocre offense against a team with a good defense. So how good are they? No one knows. But you look at their wins outside of the Notre Dame win, they don't really have a whole lot on their resume that they can be proud of. And you know, there's people out there with a lot of different feelings about Notre Dame, so it's going to be crazy. Any specific matchups that you want to see, or any specific team that you think could drop or on Sunday?
Yeah, I wanted to go back to that, like Ole Miss, Texas A&M, those schedules.
Yeah.
Both of them played 5 conference games against teams below 500.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they both played Arkansas, both played Florida, both played South Carolina. They had very similar head-to-head matchups,
Yeah.
honestly. And you see the reward that they get for having the luck of the draw this year, because
Yeah.
how good is Ole Miss? We don't know, because they lost to the team that they were set up to have a good game with, and that was
Yeah.
Georgia. Same thing with Texas A&M. They were set up with Texas to finish the season, and they didn't look good.
No.
And so that's the question marks I'm going into this whole playoff scenario with,
Mm-hmm.
is if you're the 10 or 11 seed, like you were saying, those are the matchups that I'm looking for,
Yeah. You want
because
Texas A&M and you want Ole Miss.
you want those two teams, because that's the chance for the upset. I don't
Mm-hmm.
think Oregon's going to get upset at home. I don't think Oklahoma, Bama, if that ends up being
You do
what it
want to
is.
see Oklahoma because best case scenario, it's close in the fourth quarter, and you probably have the better offense.
Right.
You probably won't have a better defense,
Mm-mm.
but you probably have the better offense. And
Right.
so you have that going for you. Honestly,
Yep.
like Bama's, even if they beat Georgia, that's not a team I'd be scared of either.
Mm-mm. And so, honestly, like 6 past Oregon, that top 5,
Yeah.
outside of that, I'm thinking anyone can beat anyone.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what I'm looking at. It's how will Ole Miss look without Lane Kiffin? Will Texas A&M be able to bounce back? And I think we're going to see a lot of chaos in this playoffs, unlike last year where it's very chalky.
Yeah. I think so as well. I do have one question. Texas at 13. They have 3 losses, but they do have good wins on their resume, Jack. They beat Oklahoma at a neutral site. They beat Texas A&M. Didn't play well against Georgia. Obviously, they have some blemishes. Losing to Florida is obviously one that everyone points to, but if they had just played, let's say they had played Maryland instead of Ohio State at the beginning of the season, they're probably ranked They're probably ranked 8th. They're probably ranked ahead of Oklahoma, right? If they just didn't play Ohio State at the beginning of the season. So, are they? I guess my point is, a team like Texas, which hasn't looked like a playoff team for much of the season, but are they getting unfairly punished because they lost a game against Ohio State at Ohio State? And guess what? Ohio State has dominated every other team. Now, they controlled the game against Texas, but they were not able to dominate Texas like they have every other team this season.
Right. I'm going to be completely honest. If we put Texas into the playoffs, why do we play games, and why is there a win column and a loss column?
Yeah.
There's no point. And so it's just.
But the thing is, we're never going to see teams play good non-conference teams. Like, it's just never going to happen. If Texas will stop scheduling Ohio State.
Right.
They'll stop scheduling Michigan because, as it's played out, if they just never played that game, they would be rewarded. They'd be the 7th best team in the country.
But you can't reward a team that plays another team decently. You know what I mean? And so
but
there has to be some type of rule
they'll
where
just do the Texas Tech thing.
Right.
Where they don't play anyone.
So you have to make a rule where, okay, everyone in the top 25 in the first 3 weeks play someone in the top 25.
Yeah.
Some type of rule in that aspect to make it so, okay, everyone is playing a tough non-conference game. At least one. Just give us one.
Yeah.
And so that's all we can ask for is, yeah, props to Texas for scheduling that game because every fan loves to see it. Yeah. We don't want to see Ohio State versus Grambling State. We don't want to see BYU Portland State. We don't want to see Texas Tech, Alabama State, A&M garbage. Yep. You know what I mean? We want to see Texas Ohio State. We want to see Ole Miss Notre Dame. We want to see Miami Notre Dame. You know what I mean? And so it's finding that balance of, oh, they went out and played a top 10 team. Good for them, but they lost. And it's the same thing that we're seeing with Notre Dame in that narrative this year is, oh, they lost the 2 games that actually meant something on their schedule.
Yeah.
And they're still in the playoffs.
Right.
And so Texas is making that same conversation of, oh, we went out and played Ohio State. Why aren't we in? Well, it's because you lost to Florida. And so that's what it comes down to for me. Like, yeah, you played Ohio State as close as anyone did this year. Yeah. But you also lost to Florida. And that's what it comes down to, in my opinion.
But Alabama lost to Florida State, who got dominated by Florida this weekend. But because they played Wisconsin, who won 4 games this season or 5 games this season, everything's good. Right? I don't like that Texas is and I will say, like, they went to overtime against Mississippi State. They went to overtime against Kentucky.
Right.
And that, to me, plays into this Texas's ranking as much. But I hate that we just look at the loss column and just say, oh, you have 3 losses, you don't deserve to be in. Like, so I think Texas would be deserving if, depending on the year, like, I think they would be deserving to be in the playoff because they have 2 top 10 wins this season.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I get where you're coming from, but also, like, teams like BYU and Utah, their 2 losses were also in the top 10. Like, what makes their conversation of getting in worse than Texas? No one's talking about the Big 12.
Because Texas has 2 wins against teams in the top 10, and BYU has wins against teams in the top 20, and I believe they should be ahead of Notre Dame based on resume. And I believe that they maybe even should be ahead of another team like Alabama or Oklahoma based on resume as well, right? But for Texas, it's that you have 2 wins against teams who are like locked up and in the playoff field, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it's the losses to me. It's
Yeah.
and it's the way they've won. And if the committee is talking about eye test, you can't
Yes.
tell me that Texas has looked good for over half the season
I
because
agree
we were
with that.
we were
They
talking for
eye test
4
wise,
weeks.
they're not in it. But
Right.
resume, like
Sure.
out there are other teams in the playoff right now with bad losses. And so
Mhm.
right now to me it's like, oh well you're just punished. To me, if like I've been saying, if Texas just didn't play Ohio State, they'd be in the playoff right now. And I hate that we just look at losses and all judge them equally.
Right. And that's what I mean, that's the confusing part in all of this. It seems like one thing serves somebody, one team well, but then another narrative serves this team well, and it's just complete chaos up and down because of how much parity is in college football these days.
Okay, let's get into it. Why should BYU make the playoff?
Um I could go down a massive rabbit hole, but um they have, to begin with, they have the 6th strength of record.
Mm-hmm.
That is above Ole Miss. That's above Bama, Oklahoma, Texas Tech, Vanderbilt, Texas, Notre Dame, and Miami. So
Right.
everyone in that area, they have a better strength of record. They're one of 2 teams to go and win 4 or more road games against bowl eligible teams. Oklahoma has 2, Alabama has 2, Notre Dame has 1. BYU has 4 on the road. They're also one of 2 teams in the nation where their only loss has come on the road to a top 10 team, them and Ole Miss. And then the last thing I want to say is BYU has more double-digit margin wins than 8, with 8, than Alabama and Oklahoma, which was also very surprising. And so people say that BYU hasn't been winning in dominant fashion, but they have 8 double-digit victories out of 12 games.
Yeah, for some reason, Bama's not getting punished for scraping by against South Carolina and Auburn, but BYU only beats West Virginia by 21 points, and it's just crazy.
Yep. So, I mean, the narrative of BYU in the Big 12, they're not playing many people. They don't look good. It's all a bunch of baloney, in my opinion, because they're winning in large margins. They have the 6th best strength of record, which means they're winning in ways that they're supposed to win. And it's against teams that are bowl eligible.
Yeah.
So that's where I see it. It doesn't matter what I think. So many people are putting, oh, SEC this, SEC that, Big Ten this, Big Ten that. But the Big 12, they have a lot of good teams, as we saw in the Arizona State.
15, 18. Saw
Right,
ASU at their best beat Texas Tech. Obviously, they're not
right.
at their best anymore, but like there were legitimately 5 top 25 teams from that conference this year. Perhaps more. I mean, Cincinnati really tailed off at the end. Holy cow, that was a
Mhm.
disaster. Um, but yeah, there were legitimately, in my opinion, there were 5 top 25 teams in the Big 12 this year, and the conference needs more respect. BYU needs respect. Put them in the playoff, you cowards. But Jack, we'll have a preview episode out on Thursday, I'm sure, to
Yes, sir.
preview BYU Texas Tech. I can't wait for that one. But early leans right now for that game.
It's gonna be Tech,
Yeah.
honestly. Um, Tech in all 11 games that they won this year, it's been 22 points or more, which is
Yeah.
absolutely nuts. And guess who played them the closest? It was BYU, but it wasn't close.
It wasn't that close.
And so I think Texas Tech is really that good. I think
Yeah.
they're going to solidify their bye in the playoffs. They're going to show the world that Big 12 football is here. It's physical. It's ground and pound. The defense is legit. I think it's going to be a closer game than people
Yeah.
think it's going to be because it's a neutral site, even though it's in Texas still.
Yeah.
I think the crowd's going to be about 50-50, honestly.
Yes.
And that'll play favor of BYU, but I just don't think BYU has enough power, star power, to compete with Texas Tech for 4 quarters. So
Yeah.
I do trust Kalani. I think he's going to prep his team as best as he can, but honestly, at the end of the day, I think Tech's defense is just going to be too much for Bear Bachmeier and that BYU offense.
Yeah. I'm lockstep with you 100% of the way. As big as the Big 12 championship game is this weekend, Jack, I think something bigger happened today. And that was the Kalani Satake extension. Jack, it was grim yesterday.
It
A
was.
lot of us BYU fans thought he was out the door to Penn State. And then it sounds like some people came in and made sure some BYU boosters, BYU brass came in, made sure that Kalani stayed, and not just stayed, but now BYU has decided they're going to invest in football at a Power 4 level for the first time ever. They're paying Kalani like a top 10 coach in college football, like he deserves. He's going to get the NIL and the revenue sharing money. He's getting it all. His staff finally got raises. That's been something that BYU hasn't done a very good job at, is paying good quality assistant coaches. BYU has that now, despite not paying very many of them market value. Now they're going to actually get paid market value. It's going to make BYU a more attractive place to come and play football, to come and coach football. And most importantly, BYU went to Texas Tech. They saw with their own eyes what BYU could be if they invest the same type of money, focused investment, buy-in from alignment top to bottom, from university president to, in BYU's case, the church, and in Texas Tech's case, their state university. When everything's in alignment and everyone's on board, rowing the same way, wanting to compete at the highest level, I think BYU re-signing Kalani getting what he wanted, which was investment into the program, Jack, I think is, whether they win or lose this game, the biggest win that happened for BYU this season is keeping Kalani Satake and going into the future with this buy-in that is going to change the program and make them I don't think they're a national championship contender this year, but mark my words, when you're listening to this, it's going to be a great day for BYU on signing day. It's going to be the best day they've perhaps ever had, and the college football playoff world is going to go, oh my gosh, BYU is actually building a team that could win a national championship in the next 4 to 5 years.
Oh, absolutely. And you saw today, I mean, Brian Santiago came on to the presser and said, we're putting in the money and it's time for us to get serious. And it's scary, honestly, for anyone outside of a BYU fan base. If you're in the Big 12 and you look at BYU and say, this is BYU without the money, what do we do with BYU with the money?
Right.
And so I hope that they still sign the right guys, because I think the culture at BYU will trump any talent that we get.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, if you get the right guys like a Yegor Demon, who's the 5-star, with the culture fit, the team's going to be special. And that's just for basketball. And now we're going to do it for football. It's probably the best time ever to be a BYU sports fan.
It is. And it was hanging by a thread, Jack.
It was.
The program could have imploded yesterday if Kalani had signed his contract to go to Penn State. if it had happened, it's, everything's different. Could BYU have still been a really good team, but, what Kalani was able to do to get that investment and buy-in from the top down, it's going to, we've seen what the basketball team with that kind of investment, the football team has it now. So everyone look out.
And you know what's even better?
What?
We have the best fan out there in Dave Portnoy.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I am all for it.
Yes. Provo Dave, baby. Provo Dave.
It is electric.
I know. It's so good, Jack. That, I think, to me, that was the best hire of the coaching carousel, was keeping Kalani Satake. The worst hire to me, Lane Kiffin. We started with that because guess what? LSU's pressure cooker. It wouldn't surprise me in 5 years that they want nothing to do with him.
Oh,
or
he's
he's
out.
made some idiotic mistake that's going to get him fired for cause. Like, there's a lot of scenarios where, and guess what? He could win a national championship, but you saw how fast they got rid of Ed Ogeron after he won a national championship. Yeah, like, it's not going to end well. It's probably going to end even worse than it has at any of his other stops. The most under the radar one was Michigan State. They hired Northwestern's coach, and his name is escaping me. They hired Pat Fitzgerald to be their next head coach. If Michigan doesn't get their act together soon, Michigan State is going to be the best team in the state of Michigan.
Whoa.
Because Pat Fitzgerald is going to coach circles around Sharon Moore and the rest of that Michigan staff. And as quickly and as good as it was when Harbaugh was there, they're going to go back to being the Michigan without Harbaugh for the last, 15 years that they didn't have him. That's going to suck, Jack. That is really going to suck. And then, two guys that need to be hired, Jeff Brom, Brian Hartline. I can't believe they didn't get hired at big name places. One of those guys should be coaching at Penn State tomorrow. If either of them are, I think Penn State is right back to being a top 15 team in the country. Penn State's just got to do it. They just got to hire one of those two guys, and they'll be fine.
Absolutely.
All right. That's it for us. We'll see you guys Thursday with a football preview and hopefully some hoops talk. College basketball was insane tonight. Devin Booker pulled his groin, and I haven't stopped crying. But the Suns still beat the Lakers by 20 yesterday. And Dylan Brooks and Colin Gillespie might be the best duo, non-all-star duo in the NBA, Jack.
Okay. There it is.
There we go. Yep, here we go. Always gotta
hey, go Suns.
Slip it in somewhere. You know what I mean. All right. That's the episode. Thanks for listening, everyone.
Peace out.